the August 19th Planning Commission meeting. We're going to start with the roll call.
Commissioner Quigg? Commissioner Choi?
Here.
Commissioner Wong?
Present.
Vice Chair Davis?
Here.
4 planning commissioners are present. Chair Chan is excused.
Thank you. All right, now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able to stand, please stand. All righty, the first thing on the agenda is agenda review. Anybody want to suggest any changes on that? I think it's in the good order here. All right, okay. Moving on, approval of minutes. We have 2 sets, one from July 15th and another from August 5th. Any corrections, comments? Alan? Looks like you might.
No, just that
No?
I wasn't.
Oh, you're just getting ready? Do we have a motion? Oh, yeah.
I was not here for August 5th. Could I vote or no?
Yeah. No, you can vote. You can.
Motion
Understand
to
He
approve.
wants, but he can vote.
Oh. Motion to approve.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I would suggest we do it one by one because certain parties were not present at each one.
Want to change your motion?
Sure. I'll change my motion to approve the minutes from June 7th. Wait,
No,
no,
July
sorry,
15th.
from July 15th. Sorry.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Votes?
Commissioner Quigg?
Aye.
Commissioner Choi?
Aye.
Commissioner Wong? Vice Chair-
Abstain. I was not present at the meeting.
And Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-1.
Okay, for August 5th?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve minutes for August 5th.
Thank you. For a second? Nobody's going to, I'll second the motion. Can we have our votes, please?
Commissioner Quigg?
I wasn't here.
Okay.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Commissioner Choi?
I was not here, but I watched it on YouTube. So yes.
Commissioner Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you. All righty. Next up on the agenda is public comment. This is for matters that are in the purview of the Planning Commission, but not on tonight's agenda. So if you're here to comment on one of the items on the agenda, the 2 public hearings, this is the time. It'll be later. Is there anybody who needs to speak during general public comment? Any speaker slips or anybody on Zoom?
There's nobody on Zoom and there are nobody in the public audience.
Okay. Then we shall move on to number 4, which is a public hearing for 236 Broadway to review and adoption of a resolution approving a public convenience or necessity application to allow a type 20 off-sale beer and wine California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control license in an existing retail store at 236 Broadway, which is M&L Happy Place. Esther, you have the staff report?
Yes. Good evening, Vice Chair Davis and Planning Commissioners. I'm Nestor Guevara, Senior Planner here at the City of Millbrae, and I'll be going over item 4A tonight. As you mentioned, it is for a public convenience or necessity at 236 Broadway. M&L Happy Place is an existing small retail store at 236 Broadway, the project site. It's zoned in the downtown mixed-use zone. It's a store that sells, a small specialty store that sells groceries and snacks. The applicant is now applying for a type 20 alcohol beverage control license, so an ABC license that would allow the sales of beer and wine. A determination of a public convenience or necessity, or a PCN, must be made in order to grant, for ABC to grant that type 20 license. Just to give it a little bit more detail on the types of licenses, type 20 and type 21 licenses are both issued to retail stores for off-site consumption. The difference being that Type 20 licenses are only for beer and wine, while Type 21 licenses are for beer, wine, and distilled spirits. Again, the application before you tonight is for a Type 20, so beer and wine only. This map here is included in your packet as one of the attachments. It shows the project site with the yellow star there, as well as the location of other active Type 20 and Type 21 licenses within the city boundary. As mentioned earlier, a public convenience or necessity, or a PCN, is required. A determination of a PCN is required and must be made in order for a Type 20 license to be granted at the project site. This PCN determination is required due to the over-concentration of off-sale ABC licenses within the project's census tract. The project is located in Census Tract 6044, which per ABC allows a maximum of up to 3 off-sale licenses. Currently, there are actually 5 active licenses within that census tract. In an analysis of the Type 20 license, staff looked at proximity to the other ABC licenses, to sensitive land uses, and it was also forwarded, the application was forwarded to both the police department and the code enforcement officer. Staff notes that while there are more than the maximum allowed ABC Type 20 and 21 licenses within that census tract, 2 of them are basically in a separate neighborhood across El Camino Real and the Millbrae Station in the MSASP area, the Millbrae Station area specific plan area. In terms of other sensitive land uses, the closest sensitive land use to the project site is a church, as you see here on the map, Millbrae Bible Church, which is just over 700 feet away from the project site. As mentioned, the project was forwarded to the police department for review as well. The police department reviewed it to make sure if they had any concerns on granting this Type 20 license. Police reported a low incidence of alcohol-related crime in the immediate surroundings to the project site over the past year. They only reported 1 disorderly conduct and 1 assault over the past year in the area. The code enforcement officer for the city also reviewed the application to note any code violations or open cases. There actually was an open case for the project site. It was related to an inoperable vehicle, waste management issues, and inadequate recycling containers and merchandise management. The applicant worked to fully address these concerns, and we checked with our code enforcement officer, and that case was closed. In conclusion, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission review and adopt a resolution approving a public convenience or necessity application to allow a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control license in an existing retail store at 236 Broadway. That concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is here as well to answer any questions and to present.
Thank you. Does anybody have any just clarification questions for Nestor right now, or should we just hear from the applicant? Applicant, can you come up? There she is. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about your store and why you want this license.
I want to increase my income because my neighborhood sometimes ask me the beer. That's why I want all the neighborhood here feel happy to my store. That's why I applied for the license and also increase my income.
Okay.
And then, yeah, pay more tax, to the government.
I
Yeah.
like it. Okay.
Mhm.
That all? Is it? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Sit down. What's next? So do we have any speaker slips on this item?
No speaker slips and no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so public comment is this section, but we have none. And we have a motion to close the public comment.
Motion to close public comment.
Second?
Thank you. Votes?
Commissioner Quigg? Commissioner Choi?
Yes.
Commissioner Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0.
you.
Public comment is now closed.
All right. Discussion? Motions?
I have a question for staff. So if the Department of ABC determines the threshold for undue concentration, is the city, the local jurisdiction allowed to approve or otherwise make an exception to that determination?
Yes, in this case, the public convenience or necessity, the PCN would be the
is-
conduit through
Okay,
which that would.
gotcha.
that
Thank
would
you.
be available.
Ellen?
And also for staff, how long is the license good for? And is there a periodic renewal and conditions with this also?
I do not believe there's a renewal. I believe that maybe Andy our community development director can provide a little bit more detail on that.
So the permit, actually the license is issued by the State Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. They do have regular renewal dates. But from this point on, after the city makes the finding of public convenience and necessity, the regulation is through their agency. Obviously, they work well with cities. They consult with us if there's ever any issues. They certainly do that with any liquor license in the city. And there are criteria, obviously, for like potential revocation, if some issue came up through their agency.
Is there any training provided to the applicant just to make sure that there's no, unauthorized sale to minors?
Yeah, in fact, their agency does require vendors to be trained. They do have a whole program. It's funny that you bring that up because I happen to be trained as well, and I'm a registered server through the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, coincidentally. So yes, if you're selling alcohol to anyone, the state does require you to be certified. Obviously, I don't have a store that sells beer and wine, but I volunteer, with my child's school at special events. I'll probably be doing the same at the city's Art and Wine Festival in a couple of weeks at the beer tent. So all of us who do that, even as a volunteer, whether you're a retailer or a volunteer, you have to have have to be certified with the State Department to be able to do that. So yes.
Kathy?
So the ordinance allows for five,
Microphone. It's on.
allows, it is on, isn't it? Yeah. Allows for 5 for each area, 3, right?
For this specific census tract, it would be 3. Yeah.
And we now have 5?
At the moment, we have 5. That's correct, active.
Okay. Yeah, I just have concerns. I know there's nothing going on right now, but as the city grows, and it's not far away to get alcohol. I mean, you've got it at CVS. It's Burlingame, but it's right there, very close. And you mentioned that it was a convenience and specialty, and I'm thinking, why is alcohol in there?
And just a clarification in terms of, you mentioned the CVS, I believe that's a separate census tract.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it
it
doesn't
is.
count for
No,
those.
no, I know it's a separate, I'm just thinking if somebody needs to get a beer there, but anyway, I do have concerns.
Like, I understand your point. Someone who wants beer isn't going to care what the census tract boundaries are. It's the closest store. But I have a follow-up question. So it's 3 for type 20 and it's separate count for type 21?
I believe in this case, it's both type 20 and type 21 because it counts the just off-site sales.
Oh, okay.
So off-site consumption.
Okay, so to compare, we are really comparing the threshold of 3 with the entire list, including 21, including type 21.
Both 20 and 21.
Gotcha, thank
That's
you.
correct.
Alan? Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, just if we're on discussion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, there's several establishments, not just the convenience stores that sell liquor. There's all the, grocery stores, several of them, restaurants, et cetera. It's not serving hard liquor, so, and then there's restrictions on, in training for the vendor to be responsible and to use good practice. So I wouldn't have an issue with this.
And the permit that they're applying for is, it recognizes the fact that even though there's a number that they come up with for a census tract, that census tract includes our downtown, right? And so we're going to probably need more than 3
Yeah, and
of a type. And we shouldn't, we should always look at each one as they come up by one. But even if our community does grow, we'll have more demand for things. And we want a downtown that's convenient to our residents. We don't want them walking to Burlingame to buy their beer. We want them to stay in Millbrae. You know what I mean? So, that's the reason that, that's why we're here, is because we have an option to grant this kind of license because we, are trying to encourage our businesses to be successful is part of it. So, just want to remind us about that.
And just a clarifying point, it includes the downtown area, but also basically across in much of what is the Millbrae Station area specifically.
So this will probably come up again. But the thing is, this is for consumption off. So these are just takeaways. These aren't.
Exactly, it wouldn't be a bar, it would be
Right,
somewhere you
it's-
buy it and go somewhere else and
Right.
consume it.
Yeah. Kathy?
Currently, we have several little convenience stores in the downtown. Has anyone else approached the city for one of these licenses?
At the moment, no, this would be the first one that we've received.
For a convenience store?
Recently, yes, yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking there's several of them downtown, and then they're going to say, oh, we can get one of these too. So I know they're case by case, but I have my comments.
Anybody have a motion or anything else to say? We're here. The top paragraph. Oh, that'll work.
We always need to read the official statement here. So I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution approving public convenience to allow type 20 off-sale beer, wine, a license with the California Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control license in the existing retail store at 236 Broadway, M&L Happy Place.
Get my notes back. Perfect. Thank you for your motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Votes?
Commissioner Quigg?
No.
No. Commissioner Choi?
Yes.
Commissioner Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you. The action of the Planning Commission is considered final pending a 10-day appeal period and the payment of a required appeal fee. For anyone that wishes to appeal the decision of the Planning Commission, please contact the city clerk at 650-259-2414 or etran@ca.millbrae.ca.us with appeal process questions or visit the Millbrae website. All right, moving on, and congratulations. You're done for now. If you want to go home, you can, or you can stay for the rest of the meeting. Either way. Thank you. All righty. On to 1301 Broadway. This is a public hearing to consider a design review permit and conditional use permit to allow the demolition of an existing single-story medical office building and the construction of a new 92 feet and 8-inch tall residential building with 97 units in the commercial zoning district. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines, section 15332, infill development projects. The project qualifies for a categorical exemption as a class 32 urban infill development and would not have any significant effect on the environment. At this point, I just want to remind everybody, because we have people here that may not have been to Planning Commission, there may be some others on Zoom. The way this will go is first the staff's going to give a presentation. The commissioners may ask a clarifying question or two when he's done, and the applicants are going to come up and give their presentation, and we may ask them a couple of questions too. After that, we'll open up the public comment. Depending on how many speaker slips we have, we'll tell you how much time you have. I don't see a huge crowd. You'll probably get 3 minutes, unless more people are on Zoom that I don't know about. And have to remember that's a comment period, so it will not be a back and forth. You can ask questions, they may get answered later, but you're just going to make your statement and then go back to your seat. I'm going to ask the staff and the applicants to listen to any questions or concerns that do come up from the public. If you could take notes and try and address them after they're done during our next questions period. We'll close the public comment. We'll do the best we can with responses, and then the commissioners will have a discussion and vote or not. Okay? So first up is Nestor with the staff report.
Good evening again, Vice Chair Davis and Planning Commissioners. I'm Nestor Guevara, Senior Planner, and I'll be presenting item 4B, 1301 Broadway Design Review Permit and Conditional Use Permit.
Before we begin, Nestor, I apologize to the commission, but we didn't have a chance to introduce our new Assistant City Attorney, Lori Liu. I wanted to let everybody know in between the items. I apologize I wasn't able to jump in right at 7 o'clock when the meeting started, but I'd like to welcome Lori to her very first Planning Commission hearing.
Thank you. Welcome, Lori.
And then before Nestor begins, I just want to note that we did hand out a brief, a memo to everybody in the room. We'll post this online as well with some minor changes to conditions of approval, just 4 conditions. And this is errata, just clarifications. And the last one reflects the applicant's request for a concession that's identified in the presentation that you'll hear shortly. So just some minor changes to those conditions, and Nestor will talk about a little bit about that in his presentation. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Nestor. I apologize. Sorry to interrupt.
Right. Thank you, Andy. Just to give a little bit of project overview, again, the applicant is requesting both a design review permit and a conditional use permit to allow a 97-unit affordable housing project with the request under state density bonus law. This lot is currently contains a medical office building that is vacant, and you can see it here on the picture on this slide. The project relies on provisions of state density bonus law and the Housing Crisis Act of 2019, which is also commonly known as SB 330, Senate Bill 330. The property is zoned commercial, and multifamily units in the commercial zone are allowed through a conditional use permit. This project site is also identified for a similar number of overall units, housing units, in the housing site's inventory of the general plan's housing element update. This map here shows, it's a screen capture of the zoning map, of the city zoning map, and it shows the location of the project site and the yellow star there. You'll notice the adjacent properties are zoned, the brown colored properties are zoned R3, which is multifamily. And across the street on Broadway, you'll notice that the project site is adjacent to that downtown and El Camino Real specific plan area. So those kind of orange colored parcels with the red striping are residential focused mixed use properties. Staff notes that multifamily use is permitted in the adjacent properties, and similar densities as proposed through a state density bonus law would be allowed in the adjoining properties as well. As way of a little bit more background, the applicant currently actually has an entitlement that's been approved for 99 housing units, 19 of which of these are set aside for affordable housing. And this rendering here that you see is that previously approved entitlement. That existing entitlement was approved under Senate Bill 35, so SB 35. This is a Senate bill that allows for streamlined staff level review of projects that meet a certain criteria, which includes that affordable housing component. This entitlement is still in effect today, and the applicant does retain the option to move forward with that vision and that version of the project. Staff notes that as mentioned, it has 19 affordable units, but also the parking that's proposed under this previously approved entitlement is, I believe, around 23 parking spaces. Moving on into the project description for the projects that you're reviewing tonight. As you can see here, this rendering is a rendering from the corner of Ludeman Lane and Broadway. As mentioned, it's a fully affordable building with 97 units. The breakdown of these units in terms of the affordable units is 10 of these would be very low income units, and 66 would be low income units, 19 would be moderate units, and then the 2 on-site manager units as well. The project also includes a courtyard space, interior courtyard space, that's just over 2,400 square feet. And that's in the first level of residential that's located. I mentioned earlier that the previously entitled project has about 23 parking spaces off-street parking spaces. This project you're reviewing tonight has a little bit more. It has 63 off-street parking spaces. There's also first level amenity space for residents that's accessible via Broadway. And in terms of the mix of units, it has 30 studio units, 10 one-bedroom units, and then 30 two-bedroom units and 27 three-bedroom units. The size of these ranges from the smallest being just over 400 square feet to the largest of the units being just over 1,000 square feet. Moving along into the elevations for the project, I'll go through the 4 sides of the project. This is the Broadway side. It features a stone veneer in the first level, so that parking podium level, which would be the first basically 2 levels of the project. And then stucco with earth tone colors for the residential levels. There's some detail in the windows. There's decorative horizontal grills. The project also features tower elements and a roof pitch of 412. You'll notice here, kind of towards the bottom right, a garage entrance. The project features 2 garage entrances and exits on Broadway, and then 1 on Ludeman Lane as well. This here is the Ludeman Lane elevation. As you'll see further towards the left, it has that garage entrance and exit. And another thing I do want to point out is that the residential levels, so the upper levels towards the left, do feature a step back for the upper 3 stories to kind of respect the transition into the residential R3 neighborhoods to the west of the project site. This here is the southwest elevation, and it includes this is basically the side that is stepped back on the upper stories, and also you'll notice the interior courtyard there as well. And finally, this is the northwest elevation. Again, the use of stone veneer towards the lower levels, and then the stucco earth tone colors on top of that. This slide here shows the landscape plan for the project. The applicant is proposing a landscape strip. You'll see it here on the image kind of to the left that shows the whole project site. It's a landscape strip on Broadway that would be in between the sidewalk and the on-street parking and bike lane. This would kind of mirror the same landscape strip that's present in the apartment building just across the street. Another thing to point out in this slide is the bulb out. The project applicant is proposing bulb out and crosswalk improvements for that corner of Ludeman Lane and Broadway, both for this northern side that you see here in Ludeman Lane and the southern side as well. And then on the right, you also get a view of the interior courtyard and the landscaping that's proposed there, as well as the playground and picnic table. This here is the site plan that shows the entrance, the garage entrance from Broadway. So it would be the lower level, and it would lead to the lower parking level that has 26 stalls. The kind of higher parking level, because this lot is on a bit of has a change in elevation, a change in grade. On Ludeman is the other entrance and exit. And this one features 32 parking stalls. And I also do want to point out that the trash termination is on that side, and would be the trash staging area would be just outside that Ludeman parking garage entrance. This slide here shows the residential levels. So these would be basically levels 3 and above. And it shows the different mix of units, as well as this specific one is level 3, so it shows that interior courtyard as well. In terms of the Senate bills that I kind of touched on earlier, this project application was submitted under SB 330, that's the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. And this Senate bill, it's a Senate bill that provides streamlined review for projects and establishes objective criteria for approval. The zoning standards, zoning development standards, objective design standards, and fees such as development impact fees are established and vested at that time of that preliminary application being received. And staff notes that both the preliminary application and the final application were submitted and received on May 31st, 2024. I also touched on the state density bonus law. This project qualifies for benefits under state density bonus law because it provides 98% of the total units, of the total residential units as affordable, meaning 95 of the units, plus those 2 on-site manager units. As a qualifying housing development under the California Government Code, the project is entitled to an 80% density bonus. However, the project applicant is seeking a 75% density bonus, which would allow the project to build up to those 97 proposed units at a density of 146 dwelling units per acre. Additionally, due to the affordable housing units that are provided, the project would be eligible for 5 incentives or concessions, as well as separately waivers of development standards that would otherwise physically preclude the construction of a development at the allowable density under state density bonus law. And again, that allowable density would be the 146 dwelling units per acre. So over the next few slides, I'll go over the waivers and concession that are being requested by the applicant. The first is a building height waiver. The commercial zone's height limit is 40 feet, but the project height proposal under state density bonus law is for a maximum height of 93 feet. A waiver of that underlying 40-foot height limit is allowed to achieve the proposed unit density under state density bonus law. So if we were to apply the city's zoning code standard height limit of 40 feet, this would physically preclude the construction of the project at that proposed density permitted by state density bonus law, and it would otherwise prevent the development of 57 of the proposed units. The city then cannot override that height allowance granted under state density bonus law. Secondly, there's a request for setback waivers. The zoning codes, our zoning code setbacks for the project, for the front, rear, the front is the Ludeman Lane side, rear, and the interior side. So the side opposite of the Broadway side is for 10 feet. And the applicant is requesting a waiver to the front, so that Ludeman side and rear setbacks. The front setback would be 9 feet and 6 inches, which is a 6-inch difference from that 10-foot requirement. And the rear setback would be 7 feet and 11 inches, which would be 2 feet and 1 inch difference. Application of the zoning code's setbacks would physically preclude construction of the project at the density allowance permitted by state density bonus law, and it would otherwise prevent the development of just over 40 units. Again, the city cannot override the reduced setback allowances under state law. There's a request for a parking garage entrance waiver. The city code has a requirement that residential garage entrances fronting an exterior lot line should be located at least 25 feet from the property line. The applicant is requesting a waiver to this requirement for both the Ludeman Lane and the Broadway entrances. The Ludeman Lane garage entrance would be set back 9 feet and 6 inches, so the same setback as that front setback, which is a difference from that 25 of 15 feet and 6 inches, while the Broadway entrance would be set back 2 feet and 5 inches, which is a difference from 22 feet and 7 inches. Applying the garage entrance requirements would preclude the development of the project at its allowed density under state density bonus law, and it would prevent the construction of 10 units. The city cannot override this setback allowance because it's granted under state law. There is a parking waiver being requested per the city zoning code. The parking requirements for this use in this zone is a ratio of 1.5 spaces per unit, which equals out to 146 spaces. The project parking count using the state density bonus law allowance is for 63 spaces. If this project were to meet the city's parking standards, 55 of those dwelling units would be eliminated, which would preclude the development of the project at its allowed density per state density bonus law. Staff notes that there is an accessible transit stop located in close proximity at the corner of El Camino Real and Center Street, and the project is within walking distance to the downtown area as well. Again, the city cannot override the parking reduction granted under state law. I mentioned earlier that the project is asking for waivers and also a concession. So under Municipal Code Section 8.30, there's a requirement for undergrounding of utilities. And the project does have utilities overhead on Ludeman Lane, on that side of the project. The applicant is requesting a concession to the municipal code requirement of this undergrounding of utilities. The undergrounding of utilities would incur an additional cost to the project, to the applicant, and the applicant has demonstrated an actual identifiable cost reduction, and the concession would allow the project to provide the proposed affordable rents. The city will be working with the applicant on a reimbursement agreement. In terms of the California Environmental Quality Act, this project is eligible for a Class 32 categorical exemption. This is what's referred to as an infill development project. An initial study was conducted. We have as attachment, I believe it's attachment 5 of your packet, the 46-page memorandum that was prepared. And this memorandum found that there are no substantial adverse impacts identified. Approval of this project would include adoption of that categorical exemption, the Class 32 from CEQA, and direction to staff to file a notice of exemption with the county. In terms of the findings of fact for this project, I'll go through these over the next couple of slides. Firstly, with the use of the development allowances under California State Density Bonus Law and SB 330 objective standards, the project is consistent with the underlying zoning and development standards and the general plan. The waivers that were mentioned for reduced setbacks, building height, and reduced parking do not make the project inconsistent with the development standards, as they are allowed under state law because the project provides the affordable units mentioned. This site, as mentioned earlier, is identified in the adopted general plan housing element as housing site number 2 for a similar number of housing units. And this project actually provides more affordable units than were identified both in the housing element and in the previously entitled SB 35 version of the project. The project provides 95 units of affordable housing and the 2 managers units. And this greatly contributes to the production of affordable units under our regional housing needs assessment or RENA, as you would be familiar with through our housing element update. The unit count provided also, or the unit count actually also provides much needed 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom affordable units. These are found to be underdeveloped in the Bay Area housing market. As mentioned, the project fully qualifies for that categorical exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act. And furthermore, potential environmental impacts from the project were thoroughly analyzed in the attached 46-page memorandum. No significant and unavoidable impacts were identified through that process. Staff notes that the project will be adequately served by all utilities and public services, and the project applicant will also be required to pay development impact fees, as well as the other community benefits from the project, such as the improved crossing, the bulb outs, and the landscaping on the Broadway side. In terms of the conditions of approval, as our community development director mentioned earlier, staff prepared a memo which you have that details some last-minute corrections to the conditions of approval. This memo, as mentioned, was provided to the Planning Commission and is available for the public to review as well.
And Nestor, could you mention it also has the applicant's late letter attached identifying the requested concession and what's the word I'm thinking of? And waivers.
Waivers.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes. So that is attached to the memo that arrived late this afternoon.
And with that said, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission review the project, consider the public testimony and findings as presented, and adopt the attached resolution, approving a design review permit and conditional use permit, along with the requests under state density bonus law to allow the demolition of an existing single-story medical office building and the construction of a new 93 feet tall residential building with 97 units in the commercial zoning district.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll have Lori's going to touch on the background on state law after
Perfect.
Nestor's presentation. And I just want to, I just want to point out to add to Nestor's report that, the applicant made a good faith effort to come back after that SB 35 approval, which was, done under a different state law, to modify this project with the architecture that you see this evening, and give the city a second chance at this and allow it to go forward through SB 330 as a public hearing item. So I just wanted to point that out to the commission and the public tonight. I understand state density bonus law is it is definitely a controversial topic. It is state law. There are a lot of limitations under that law, what the city can and can't do. Our legal counsel here will touch on that in her presentation next. But I just want to say, though, that, we don't often get a second chance at a SB 35 project. And so we've worked with the applicant on the design of this and get it as close as we can, given the limitations of the city, to a better design. The architecture that you see before you tonight is more reflective of a recent density bonus approval at 959 El Camino that was brought to this commission earlier. And we feel that, that it has that architectural style that is consistent. This is not the first state density bonus project that this commission has seen. So I just want to point that out to the members of the public and the commission this evening that, that we appreciate the opportunity to revisit that SB 35 project and come up with a better design.
Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Lori Liu. I'm the Assistant City Attorney. And wanted to give you a little bit of a background on state density bonus law and SB 330 as it applies to this project. So as was mentioned in the staff report, this proposed project qualifies for the benefits under state density bonus law as well as SB 330. And what that means is that there are some significant limitations on the city's discretion in processing this matter. Under state density bonus law, that means that as an affordable project, as a wholly affordable project at 98%, the project is entitled to 5 incentives or concessions, as well as waivers or reductions of development standards, which is where the standard would physically preclude the development from becoming, being cost effective at an affordable level. And in the case of concessions, the city doesn't have any discretion and is not able to deny those concessions. The law says that the city shall grant the concessions or incentives that are requested by the applicant unless the city makes a written finding of any of the following. And that would be, in order to make a denial, there would be specific findings that would be required. Number one, the city would need to find that the concession does not result in identifiable and actual cost reductions to provide for affordable rent or cost, or the concession or incentive would be contrary to state or federal law, or that it would have a specific adverse impact upon public health and safety or a historic property listed on the California Register. So what this means is that the burden is very high to be able to establish one of those findings. The city does bear the burden of proof. There must be substantial evidence if there is evidence to support a denial. As I said, the burden is on the city, and there's potential consequences if it results in litigation of attorney's fees plus the cost of the lawsuit. Secondly, the other bucket that the developer can take advantage of under state density bonus law is the waivers of the development standards. And there, the applicant may reduction or a waiver of any development standard that has the effect of physically precluding the development from meeting the affordable housing thresholds at the densities or with the concessions or incentives permitted by state density bonus law. There as well, with waivers, the city also bears the burden of proof, has to show a substantial evidence to support a denial, and also potential consequences for attorney's fees and costs of a lawsuit. So that's under state density bonus law. That would be the required findings for a denial. Under the Housing Accountability Act, that also, which is as amended by SB 330, that provides additional limitations on a city's discretion to disapprove a housing development project. Some provisions of that bill are applicable only to affordable housing projects. Others are applicable to all housing development projects. And here it applies because it's a project that involves residential units only of 2 or more. And under the Housing Accountability Act, the standard is that if a housing development project complies with objective general plan zoning and subdivision standards and criteria, including design review standards, the city can only lower the density or deny the project if there is a specific adverse impact to the public health and safety that cannot be mitigated in any other way. So once again, the standard is very high. And a significant adverse impact is defined by law. It means that it has to be significant, quantifiable, direct, and unavoidable based on objective, identified, written public health and safety standards, policies, or conditions as they existed on the date that the application was deemed complete. That's a very difficult standard to meet. And in this case, the city has not identified any objective, identified written standards that have been violated. Just wanted to wrap that up by saying, those are the limitations on the city's discretion. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff right now? They're just clarifying from what they just heard. Yeah, Alan?
So, Nestor, based on the land use map here, the property lot is zoned, yes. Is it working? Okay. Based on our land use map, I noticed the property is zoned for general commercial. So general commercial, I would assume that means retail, business, not including residential. Is that correct?
The city or the lot is zoned commercial, and under our zoning code and the commercial zone, multifamily units are allowed under a conditional use permit. And the part of the request from the applicant tonight is a conditional use permit to allow multifamily use in the commercial zone.
So the conditional unit's not, conditional permit's not guaranteed then? It's not guaranteed that we can allow building residential facility on a commercial lot?
It's a conditional use permit, so it's not permitted by right. Like, for example, in an R1 zone, a single family house wouldn't need a conditional use permit. In this case, that's the commercial zone would require a conditional use permit for that multifamily use.
And then another question is that on your slides, like slide 24, you have that the city finds that the building development is consistent with our general plan. We have a lot of plans, downtown El Camino specific plan, Millbrae plan, and then you specifically stated that there are height limitations, 40 feet, 10-foot setback, number of parking spaces. So if they are requesting a waiver for that, then to me, my understanding is that then it wouldn't be consistent for our plan because we have all these planning documents that we all went through, discussed, approved over the years to come up with these design standards. But now we're saying we don't need to follow these cities' design standards, but we can provide a waiver. So just to clarify, in your documents, it really is not conforming with our original general plan documents, which specified 40 feet height limitations, 10-foot setbacks, 25-foot setback from the garage entranceway to the street, and so forth.
I can respond to that. So under state density bonus law, those concessions, waivers, parking reductions, all of that is considered, to be not resulting in a project being inconsistent with the applicable objective standards. So what you have to do is take a look at the waivers and concessions, and then assuming that they have been granted, then is it considered consistent? So under state density bonus law, that brings it into consistency essentially.
But it's consistent because of the state bonus density law. It's not consistent specifically with our prior approved general plan and specific plans.
So to clarify, state law trumps our laws.
Yeah.
Is that true?
In this instance, yes. It would be considered consistent
Right.
with the local standards due to the state law.
Thank you.
So with that, thank you, first of all, for that primer on state density bonus law and SB 330. It's very helpful. Why does it make sense that a project or an application like this would come to the Planning Commission if the threshold or the burden of proof on the state is so great? Are there other jurisdictions where this would be reviewed ministerially?
Well, these are coming to the Planning Commission because of the types of permits that are being requested. Those are required. The conditional use permit has to come to the Planning Commission. Staff can speak to the local requirements.
Yeah, so here in Millbrae, we don't have a ministerial approval of a design review or a conditional use permit. They all have to go to Planning Commission. I think that's the conversation about potential code changes is hypothetical and for another meeting, obviously. But because of that, we do have to, there is no ministerial approval. It does have to come to this, even though it seems that way.
Okay.
And I want to point out too that, we are currently working on our objective residential objective design standards. That is a project that is underway. Once that is completed and codified, projects like this will have to adhere to those standards. We're still in the process of codifying it. It is not in the code at this moment. But projects like this, we have that under SB 330, they would have to comply with those design standards.
Wait, but an applicant could still apply for a waiver to those
Yes.
standards, right?
And when I say design, I mean like the architectural
I see.
style of the building, not necessarily something along the lines of a setback
I see.
or a height limit. Those are development standards. So I just want to say that's for design. So that's the architecture of the building, the way it looks. So I want to make that real clear that is one of the reasons why we're going through the objective residential design standards is so that we do have that in place. Typically, architectural design would not preclude the density under state density bonus law. You would still have that design to the building, whatever its massing is allowed. So that's how I just want to clarify that for the commission.
Thank you. I have a second question for Nestor.
Okay, sure.
So this new concession that we just learned about from the memo on undergrounding of utilities, you mentioned the reimbursement agreement. Did you mean that the city then would reimburse the developer to implement the work, or did I misinterpret that?
Sorry, I was responding, so go ahead.
No. So regarding the undergrounding of utilities, I think it was mentioned there's a reimbursement agreement.
Yes.
What is that?
So, and I'm going to have the applicant talk to this. So before, in advance of the meeting, we had a discussion with the applicant. As you know, the applicant has requested a concession to underground the overhead utility on Ludeman Lane. That is the applicants identified the cost of that in the letter that they provided you tonight, and that's a minimum cost. It's not what we've done is we met with the applicant in advance of the meeting tonight, and they brought this up to us after the agenda packet went out. And the applicant, and I'll let him, verify this himself at the die. We've come up with this draft condition of approval to come up with a reimbursement agreement for the cost of undergrounding those utilities. So we've added that to condition of approval 84. We're going to work with them over the next 90 days on what that would look like and how that would work. Again, they are entitled to that concession under state law, but we would like to have the ability to use So for example, potential development impact fees and apply that towards the undergrounding if that's possible. So we're going to work with the applicant on that possibility. Undergrounding utilities is very expensive. We understand that. There is otherwise a requirement in the code to underground existing overhead utilities. And so we're trying to do the best we can. And that's what that is.
Any other questions?
So I
Wait,
appreciate.
sorry, Kathy?
Okay. My questions are a little bit different. So because it's an affordable building, how do they actually qualify? Is there, how can I say it? How do they really qualify? Who does that? Qualify for the units?
For the units, so there is a threshold. I know Nestor has. So.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
And so what this slide is current income rate qualifies. We're going to bring up the slide right now to identify who the income levels that qualify. Just one second. There it is. Okay, if you could see that on the screen in front of you. So yeah, so the very low income, depending on the number of the family size, the threshold for example, for very low, a family of 4, their income would be $93,200. For low, $149,000, and medium, $175,000 income for a family of 4. Those are very high income levels. Those are, yeah. So those are the folks.
And then do they check them yearly?
We do. We will monitor those, and
Who does that? The city or the developer or?
we do, and we work with the management of the housing project. What we do is we have a affordable housing agreement that we'll enter into before construction. That agreement is basically a contract that lays out how we do that and who qualifies, and the city is responsible for making sure that those are met.
Okay. So if they get a new job, are they supposed to tell you mid-range?
Yeah, it's updated annually, so
Annually?
yeah.
And then if they make more money, does that make a difference in the amount of rent they pay? Or that unit is always going to be X amount of dollars for so many people?
I don't have the chart in front of me, but there is also a table for rent levels, a rent maximum for these income levels. But that's also established, and that's a countywide standard.
And then I had one other question. Is it the same entity that the approval currently, the entitlement is there for the SB 35? Is it the same entity?
It is the same applicant, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the applicants here this evening, they have a presentation that they're going to give once we conclude with staff questions, and they'll talk about that, and they'll also touch on other projects in the community.
Okay.
Alan, did you have one more question?
Yes, so there's a memo here from LSA. It notes that the city finds the proposed project categorically exempt from CEQA. So my question is, how was that determination made? It says here, if these are the conditions, project includes development of less than 5 acres in size in accordance with the city's general plan, land use zoning designations, is substantially surrounded by urban uses, is not on a site containing habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species, would not result in significant effects to traffic, noise, air quality, water quality. When I see that property, it is adjacent to single family residences. And so it's not completely surrounded by urban uses. There's, single family homes right next to it. And it seems like this would create significant amount of traffic congestion, parking. So how can we say that this is exempt from CEQA?
So the definition of urban uses under CEQA for a Class 32 categorical exemption, those all qualify as urban. So it does meet the threshold.
But zone single family qualifies as urban?
And to clarify, that it's zone 3, which is multifamily, just around it on Ludeman Lane. And I forget the name of the other street. It's on the PowerPoint slide, but it's R3, which is multifamily zoned, or residential focused mixed use.
So SB 330, SB 35, does that have any regard for our land use zoning map? So can you have an R1 or an R3 property that claims the same exemptions and goes up 100 feet on their property and disregards the setbacks, side setbacks, and so forth?
In this case, the R3 multifamily zoned properties, as well as the residential focused mixed use, they would be allowed to invoke state density bonus law and SB 330 for a project, because they would be considered multifamily projects.
What about R1 properties? Would they be able to claim that?
The urban designation? Yes. I don't know, would our single-family residential zoning claim a housing density bonus? It's a hypothetical question.
Or I think we're getting off track, talking about a hypothetical. We're here to talk about this project.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could answer that hypothetically. There's a lot of nuance with that.
Okay, appreciate the legal counsel, just understanding how our city is developing here. So how it might transition. Thank you.
No more questions? We have the applicant come up.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay? Hi, my name is Gene Broussard. I work at AMG and Associates. We are primarily an affordable housing developer. I'd like to walk through, I have a brief presentation tonight. Some of it will be repetitive. Nestor did a great presentation, so I apologize as I saw his slides, and some of it will be repetitive, but I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want to interrupt and ask questions as we go along, that's fine, or wait to the end. It's up to you.
I think we'll wait till the end if you don't
Okay.
mind. And give your full presentation. It's okay if it's duplicative.
Okay, absolutely. All right, so just a brief intro of who we are. So we own and operate about 10,000 units throughout California. 98% of that is affordable housing, tax credit, low-income housing that are larger apartment buildings throughout the state, a lot of rural and a lot of urban projects, all the way from San Diego up to Marin County, and all the way east to Fresno. We even have projects in Alaska as well. Our staff, our team kind of specializes in land use, acquisition, finance, construction, density bonus law, all types of things real estate related. We're a small team. I've been at the company since 2005. We are very involved from start to finish. These projects, they're living, they're breathing, they never go away. We're always in communication with staff from the entitlement stage through the construction stage, through the operation stage. There's a lot of things that come up, and so it's always good to have a nice relationship with the city. And it's nice that Millbrae is a small city because there's less kind of layers of, staff, so we can kind of go directly to Nestor or Andrew or the city manager with any questions that we have. So that is nice working here. Next slide, please. Thank you. We partner with the Pacific Companies, who is a partner on this project. The Pacific Companies, they have over 213 affordable properties throughout the Western United States. And they, like us, are also very focused on affordable housing tax credit development in the state of California. Also in other states as well, but primarily California. Next slide, please. This is kind of each year in the affordable housing space, there are publications that produce the top 50 affordable housing developers in the country. And you can see that on the right column is throughout the past, 10 years, where the Pacific Companies kind of ranks nationally, and then always in the Western United States, because it's more difficult to develop on the Western United States, where they rank on the Western side. Next slide, please. I think this is a pretty critical component to hit, is that on all these, the commissioner had a great question about affordability, how it's done. So there's a lot of management companies that will manage a typical apartment building, whether it's 10 units, 30 units, 50 units. But then there's a special subset of management companies that really understand the affordable space, because it is very intensive, there's a lot of law around it, federal housing law, fair housing laws, all of those laws to make sure that the compliance is there, that we're complying with the regulatory agreements with the state agencies, the city regulatory agreement. And so we hire only these management companies that will manage this project and all of our affordable projects that have the understanding of how these affordable projects work in the state. So there will be a third-party professional management company that's outside of our companies that we hire, and they make sure everything's fair. We can't just say, oh, I want my brother to live there. No, well, where are they on the list? So that's very detailed, and there's a lot of checks and balances. We have a team of asset managers that manage the third-party management companies in-house. So it actually says 8, but it's probably up to 10 now. And their job is just to manage all of the properties. So it's a pretty, there's a lot of work that goes behind it. This project will have 2 full-time on-site managers that will live at the project. They will be there all time, 24/7. They will live there and manage the project. The property management, we have detailed maintenance plans that come along with each site, and we have a kind of a property maintenance team now that comes and visits internally each year to make sure that these projects look well over time, right? Because you see sometimes the stucco fades or this fades, so we want to make sure that we're keeping the buildings looking as good as they were built on the day that they were achieved their certificates of occupancy, excuse me. And so there's a pretty detailed property management maintenance plan to make sure that these properties are looking great for years to come, because we have this long-term pride of ownership, and we don't sell our properties. Very rarely do we sell our properties. Maybe we'll sell some land that we didn't develop, but it's very rare that we sell property. And we did buy this. I just want to clarify, we do own this property. We're not in a contract to buy it. We do officially own this project currently. Next slide, please. Our partner, the Pacific Company, which stands for the TPC on your screen there, actually owns the site catty corner to this site across the street there. It was an ACK rehab low-income project as well, and they're the current owner as well. Next slide, please. This is the proposed site plan. I know Nestor went over it. This differs a bit, as Andrew mentioned, that we've been working with staff to improve the project versus the SB 35 approved project that we have today before the hearing started. The projects, we added a whole nother level of parking. It is a bigger cost. It does increase the height a bit, but we think based on the feedback we received from staff and probably for the project's longevity, it does help. We are also internally exploring on the left-hand screen. You can see the level 1. We're exploring potentially doing some type of automated system there as well. We haven't flushed it out, but trying to add another potentially 10 to 20 stalls yet. We can't commit, but we're trying. It's basically, I just want to touch on it a little bit. It's like a mechanical system that moves the cars on boards. It's called park board. And it basically would help increase the stalls even more. So, we started at 20 with the current project, 24. Now we're up to 63. We're trying to get up to the 80 range. So that's still being flushed out now. Next slide, please. we went back to the city and we tried to improve a lot of different things on this project. The city said, hey, we would like you to redesign the project, which was a significant cost to us, right? It is a significant cost to go back and redesign the project, which we did with our architectural team, but they gave us some project examples and we came up with the revised elevations versus the old project. We've improved the look and feel of the corner. There's a lot of comments from staff about the corner. How can we make it feel better than what we had before? We have the bulb outs. We have the larger courtyard space. It's a little bit more Mediterranean style now versus before. There was some concerns about the setbacks from the neighbors, which we'll touch on soon. Can you touch on the next slide set, Nestor, please? This is the breakdown of the affordability. I know Nestor kind of touched on this before. There is a little bit of error. The affordability of the bottom, it should add up to 97, but it says 99, so apologize for that. But this is the previously, we had a lot more market rate units before, and now we are all affordable. So we have the very low, which is the 30% area median income. And I know that Nestor and Andrew brought up the rent levels. I just wanted to kind of touch on those. So a 30% studio, which is a very low income, touch on that, is about $1,600 for rent. Now there's also a utility allowance that goes into that. So how it works at the state, for any of these state affordable projects, is if a tenant pays electric, the tenant pays for the power, we have to credit them. The local housing authorities, usually countywide, issues a utility allowance. So we have to credit that back to them. For example, if the rent's $1,000 and they pay for their hot water and their electric and their unit, all that, we have to credit them on average somewhere between $60 to $100 so they get that money back. Typically on these projects, we're paying for the water and sewer and trash. They pay for the electric and hot water heating, but we reimburse them through the utility loan allowance program. So there's that. Some additional rent levels across the board for the studio at the very low is $1,600, $1,742 for a 1-bedroom, $2,000 for a 2-bedroom, and $2,400 for a 3-bedroom. So that is the kind of a breakdown there, and it goes a little bit higher for the next level. But I can, at the end of the presentation, if you have additional questions, I can touch on that. Next slide, please. This is I think it's next to 210 Ludeman. There's concerns from staff. We originally had the project. It was real close to the two homes there. And there was a lot of, I think is it Heather? Heather Lane that wraps around there. There's the two homes there, and staff was concerned, like, hey, we have this project approved. How can we improve it? So we stepped that whole, you can see as we go up 2-3 levels, we just stepped it all back there to try and provide some relief to mitigate the impacts. Next slide, please. The proposed elevations, which you have seen already. Next slide. Yeah, that's the brief presentation. I'm also going to touch on a few other things. We touched on the breakdown. Also the affordability. I wanted to touch more about the long term. The density bonus, if we enact density bonus in the state of California, it requires us to commit these units to the city for 55 years. So as you probably noted, there's a condition of approval that we have to enter into an agreement with the city, which we will do. They will not allow us to pull building permits until we do that. And that spells out all the affordability requirements that we've committed to enact density bonus. And those are checked each year. And we have our internal check by our management company that checks the files. Each file is like its own audit, income, requirements, work status. You have to check all these things. Each year it's done. You also have the tax credit allocation committee that checks this, and the state bonding agency that checks, as well as the city's housing department comes in and checks as well. So there's a lot of checks and balances to make sure that the project will stay affordable for 55 years. It is a requirement of the project. It's a requirement of this project before you. I want to touch briefly about the height. I know like it sounds, it sounds very high, and I know we're using density bonus, but it's, some of the projects, the sample projects from the city that we receive, which we think looks great. We have this nice tower element now, but that little tower is what's measuring to the top, right? So if you just took the bulk of the building, it's not as high as it sounds. If you just measured just the bulk of it, the tower really throws the height off if you look at the elevations. We are applying for tax credits. The round is the 27th is the final application due date. Tax credits are competitive. We're hopeful that we can get it. It's not easy to get an affordable housing project out of the ground in the Bay Area, especially the west side of the Bay. It's just expensive. Land's expensive. Impact fees are expensive. I think we're at like 57,000 or 58,000 per unit of fees. So it's just financially not easy to get projects out of the ground. So that's why the affordable housing developers typically utilize the state density bonus law. The undergrounding, I wanted to speak to that. I know we talked about that briefly. So the staff report was released last week. We reviewed it over the weekend. There's like over 120 conditions. So we went through it. Our team went through it over the weekend. We had clarification on a few different points, as you could see in the memo handed out to everyone. I do want to speak to the undergrounding. So the undergrounding of the utilities, they are very expensive. It's PG&E. It's a multi-year process. By the time you apply and do the work, we don't have an exact cost until you get a design from the PG&E on how to do the undergrounding. But I have to say, based on experience and doing it multiple times, it's somewhere between 200 to 500,000, maybe more. But it is a big expense. But we want to work with the city where there's some type of fee reimbursement for us. Well, not for our time, not for the project management, not for the contractor's time, but really to get the fees credited. But we'll do all the work and coordinate it and do that. So it will be a separate agreement with staff and probably have to go to city council, I would think. So I just wanted to touch on that, and we could discuss more if you have other questions on that. I want to thank you, staff, for pushing hard to get this. We're trying to get in for tax credits, and there's been a lot of back and forth, and staff's been great to try and help get the project and get a better project for the city, right? And so we went through fast with the SB 35. It's all at the staff level. There's no hearing like this. We really think that staff's pushing to make a better project for the city than was currently approved. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have, and thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any clarifying questions for him? Kathy?
One quick question. I heard you say that you have the building kitty corner?
It's our partner does, so I know limited information about it.
Okay.
It was
I'm sorry?
It was an acquisition rehab, so they didn't develop it. In the tax credit world, you can buy a building and get tax credits, and you try and rehab the.
Yeah, that's what they did there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, because that was one of my questions, does your firm only build the projects, or do you do some, like the one at Kitty Corner?
Yes, like 10 years ago, we were doing a little bit more of these acquisition rehabs, but I would say now it's 98% all new.
Okay. How many units are over there? Do you know?
I don't know the exact count. Does anyone know?
Not a lot.
It's a pretty small project, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. They're very, very nice units. So.
It's a small project.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, a couple questions for you. So on the cover page of the drawings, it notes the proposed use as mixed use. So do you plan on having any commercial properties or retail or other within the building, bottom floor, top floor?
Yeah, I would say that's a good catch. It's probably an error in the plans. The previous approved SB 35 the currently approved SB 35, I believe, had a corner commercial there. It was probably just left over.
Okay, so
Apologize for that.
this will be changed to, so all residential then?
Yeah, it will
Okay.
be. I also, if you wanted to, I can respond to, you had a comment about density bonus in the single family, the R3. I can definitely speak to that. So how density bonus works is you can't, the density allowed here is greater because it's a greater dwelling units allowed per acre. So you take your base and then you add on top of that. If you were going to go to the R1 or an R3 zone at 7 or 15 to the acre, you're only going to be able to go so much above that. Unless you're like very close to within a half mile of a major transit stop, train station, rail, bus line.
So another question is, it has a large tower on the corner here, and it says that the height of that would be up to about 93 feet. However, the top floor would be measures up to 67 feet. So is this tower on the top 30?
Yeah, so the tower at the top, are you talking about when I clarified the height?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then if you can explain the purpose of that and what it will be used for and why it's necessary. If it's not there, then that would bring.
Yeah, it's not there. It's just an architectural feature to kind of try and improve the corner element. It's not. There's nothing in there, so it will be framed out. That there will be no units in there. So we kind of modeled it off previous projects, but we're not married to that. If the city's wanted to get rid of that, that would be.
So it's
The other
possible.
two are actually used for the access to the roof for the fire department. They're both stairwells. So those other two tower elements are functional and necessary for fire roof access.
So it's possible that we could lower the building height just by lowering that parapet tower. Okay.
Yeah, I think it would help. I mean, I could see some people liking the tower, and some and not.
Or if it's faux, then it doesn't really have a function, so it could be a lower in height or have an appearance of being the tower, but perceptually from the ground, it could be shorter. You wouldn't even notice it was.
Yeah, it will change the look and feel to a little bit more of that, I don't know, I guess I'm not, more urban, like modern, boxier. The tower element kind of gives it that Mediterranean vibe, so you would kind of lose some of that aspect, but we're open.
And the difference between the top of that tower and the average height of the building isn't 30 feet. It's like the flat top, the top of the most of the building is 86 feet.
Yeah, I don't think it's not
Yeah,
30 feet.
It's not a big
Probably,
difference.
I'm gonna guess.
That's what I saw in the.
Yeah, 10 to 15 maybe,
Presentation.
somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just in that corner too.
Can you touch upon some design elements for privacy for the residents behind on the west side of the building? Because I noticed there's a lot less windows and access, but there is a park area on that side, right? It'll be facing the other residences or back abutting the other.
Yeah, are you
Residential
talking about the community space on the podium,
Right.
on top of the parking level?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of one of those decisions, you face it facing the roadway. If you took the C and kind of flipped it either way, so it's facing the roadway and that noise aspect, or this way where it's faced currently. And I think, speaking with the team, it kind of makes the most sense. I mean, a lot of those courtyard spaces are not used at night. It's really kind of during the day and later in the day, but not at night as much. So the noise, should be mitigated through that in itself.
Or maybe more specifically, or I should ask, are the windows facing the rear properties, will those be able to open and close the windows, or will they just be fixed?
So, with it is a type 3A building. It's a 5-story building code term. You technically don't need escape windows, so they could be fixed. But I would imagine that those we would like to just open for fresh air. Got a nice, beautiful wind here. But they will be operable, but they're not used as, for example, an escape window. They will be, we would have them be like a typical operable up and down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nothing else right now? Okay, thank you very much. We might
Thank
have
you.
questions for you again later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to open up the public comment. We have speaker slips?
Yes, we have 3 speaker slips, but no hands raised.
No hands raised? Okay. If anybody's listening on Zoom and you would like to make a comment, please use the Zoom feature to raise your hand.
And I just
While
want to
we-
know, we're opening the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So the first speaker is Tom Brosher.
No, you have, okay, that's fine. You're going to call him? That's great. No, I'm happy you do it.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Tom Broker. I've been a resident of Millbrae for 33 years. I've mainly lived in a single-family house across from Mills High School on Sequoia. But for the past 4 years, I've lived in 1388 Broadway, which is the 100-unit condo, Park Broadway, across the street from 1301. I strongly support this revised plan for 1301. I was not a big fan of the first plan that was submitted, but I echo the counselor's comments that this new plan is much improved, has much better parking capability, and I like the fact that it's virtually entirely all affordable housing. As you know, in San Mateo County, we're facing a huge homeless crisis and a shortage of affordable housing. And this is a type of project that can address that kind of issue. So I think we need to think very hard and long about supporting this kind of project. It might not be the most ideal project from many people's point of view, but we need this kind of housing. That's clear. Half of our population in San Mateo County that is homeless are seniors. And we need to help them manage to stay with their families in San Mateo County. The other major portion of the homeless population are families, people with small children. And again, this kind of project can help them find a home in San Mateo County. So I urge you to think very positively as you can about this project and to approve both of the permits that would allow it to go forward.
Thank you. Next.
Second person is Maha Yasser Shade.
Good evening, Council. My name is Maha, and I've been a resident of Millbrae for 48 years. I grew up here, and what I loved about Millbrae is the small town feel. And so I have actually a lot of concerns about this project. It's a monstrosity, it's huge. Just calculating the parking shortage and what it would cause a lot of congestion in that area that's already, I feel like there's a parking, struggle. Even if you have like the bare minimum of parking required for each unit, let's say a studio would require one, a 1-bedroom 1, 2-bedroom 2, and 3-bedroom 2, bare minimum, that would require 154 spaces, where currently they only are going to accommodate 67. I just feel it's going to cause a lot of congestion. The Pancake House is right there. 2 schools are very close in proximity, St. Dunstan and Green Hills. I just feel like it's too big. there's not enough accommodations for the amount of people that will be residents in this project. So that's a big concern of mine. And also the concessions and exemptions, I feel like our comments are really not going to make a difference because it seems that state law is going to trump whatever we say here. So I just feel like the height is too high. There's just too many units to accommodate the parking and, the close proximity of the neighbors, the privacy issue. I would hate to be living behind this. I don't. That's it. I just have concerns. I don't know, but if our comments are really going to make a difference, given the state law trumps. Thank you.
Thank you.
The third one is Laila Awa.
Evening, Council. My name is Laila, and I lived in Millbrae for 32 years. Currently, I live a block and a half away from this project that is being planned. I'm telling you from experience how much traffic that area is. We have Penn Dunstan traffic, Green Hills, and Cappuccino. Also, we have Millbrae House of Pancakes. People cannot find parking, so they end up going all the way to the courts and park there. Can you imagine now with this huge building? I think it's huge. It doesn't match with the area. Too many floors and not enough parking. We're going to have congestion. Across from it, we also have the senior center. So I am not with this type of project, maybe 3-4 floors. 3 floors is more than enough.
Thank you.
That's the last of our slips, and we have one hand raised on Zoom. Jennifer, can you hear us? Jennifer?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. My name is Jennifer, and I live in very close to the proposed 1301 Broadway, and I have a very huge concern about this proposal. First of all, what's the other speaker has been saying that it's going to be a huge parking issues. One family can have more than one car. They can have 3 cars. Even though they build a parking space, it's going to still create a lot of problem in the parking. And at the same moment, a lot of people currently working from home. All right. And then with this construction going on, it's going to have, very disturbing noise about, during the construction. And another thing is, can the school support? I know that we have the elementary school, one Mills High, and then we have, the school here. Can the school there's many there are a lot of units now, right, within 1301 Broadway, right? And then that means that there are a lot of families that do support these population staying in that unit, in that property. And this is my concern. Yeah. I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
We have one more speaker slip. Derek Fig.
Derek Fig. I live at 1388 Broadway. A little bit better. All right. Sorry about that. Again, my name is Derek Fig. I am a resident at 1388 Broadway. I am here tonight to share with you some things that I've been hearing tonight, resonating with me. The word entitlement. I know it's meant in a different way, but it just seems when I think about entitlement, they're kind of abusing this entitlement of the state to just come in and put in a huge building. Now, I agree with my neighbor Tom, we do need housing, but do we need a skyrocket that's gonna be blocking the sun for all the people in Heather Place? They're not even gonna see noon until, or the sun until noon. What about the infrastructure? What about the water? We already pay the most water in all of this county, but yet now we wanna add another 140 plus toilets to this network? What about all of El Camino? Can't you put it there? So again, talking with my neighbors too, I agree with parking. I walk my dog every night on Ludman, on Broadway, and the roads are packed with cars because all those people who you're thinking that are gonna live there have to drive to their job. You think they're gonna stop driving? You think they're gonna get on their scooters? You think they're gonna go take BART? If you haven't taken BART in a while, it's pretty disgusting. They try to tell it's, beautiful, but it's not. No one rides the buses, no one takes public transportation. Now again, I agree, we need housing, but this isn't the location for it. We have a lot of great places in Millbrae. You got all the plans right there that have already been approved and what we want to do. Why is this getting shoved? So again, the second word was burden. We as the community are going to take the burden of having to deal with this skyrocketing building that's going to go in. We're not going to have the parking. We're going to deal with a lot more noise, all the logistics that go with this. How about the 3 years of construction that it's going to take to build this beautiful building? How beautiful it looks. For 3 years, we're going to be having our tires popped. 3 years, we're going to having the guys sweeping the streets and blowing that beautiful, environmentally friendly dust in the air that we're all going to have to sniff. Where do you live? Do you live there? Probably not, but I do, and I'm going to have to deal with that. I don't work for home, so I don't have to deal with it during the day, but I have to deal with all the dust that comes with it. So I just hope that all of you imagine what a 93-foot, tall building is going to look like. Imagine those neighbors who live in a zoned area that says it's high density or mid density. It's kind of ridiculous. But they're single family homes that are on Heather Place. They might have 1 or 2 units, but they're nowhere near what this building is going to become. I just think with the school there, Ludman, it's just going to become a cluster. You know what? I just hope that you guys consider a 40-unit place at max, which is what I feel is most accommodating. And I agree, we need affordable housing, what my neighbor says. That would be a great place to bring, but they're talking about 10 units, only 10 out of 97. And are those 2 of those units going to be for their employees out of those 10? Who knows?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
3 minutes. No more speaker slips, no more Zoom hands?
No more speaker slips or raised hands on Zoom.
Do we have a motion to close the public comment?
I make a motion to close public comment.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.
And I just want to clarify again, we're closing the public hearing.
Hearing, okay, we've never called it that. We've always said public comment, but okay.
Commissioner Quigg?
Yes.
Commissioner Choi?
Aye.
Commissioner Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0. Public comment is now closed.
Okay, before we start our discussion in earnest, is there anything that staff or the applicant would like to address from what they heard from the public comment?
No, just a quick clarification. There's a mention of 10 units being affordable. It's 10 very low income units. The project is fully affordable otherwise, and the manager units are separate from those affordable units.
Thank you.
So those 2 manager units wouldn't be included in the 10 very low.
Thank you. All right. Then we'll just carry on with our discussion now. Who wants to kick it off? I'm going to point to somebody.
Given everything I've heard, I feel that this project is a textbook case for why the state law was created. I mean, I think it checks everything that the state law had intended. I think sometimes state law, it doesn't reflect the realities of local neighborhoods, nor the scale of the city. But that's how I feel given everything I've heard. I do appreciate that there are 3-bedroom units in this, which is rare. You don't see that a lot in affordable or market rate housing these days. And looking at the plans, I think the units are efficiently designed. I feel that it's as tight and efficient as it can be to provide the function needed for the 97 units.
Thank you. Alan?
Well, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness, of the developer working with the staff, the design. Looks like it's really well thought out. Has fine materials, good architecture, provides affordable housing, which we're all for. And it fits a lot of our planning documents. But unfortunately, it's just outside of our El Camino specific plan, which we're envisioning that the building like this would be at. And so it kind of breaks my heart to see this go up right next to the, so close to the residential neighborhoods. And in our design, in our planning documents, we envisioned higher elements along El Camino and stepping down through the neighborhoods so it transitions into the residential neighborhoods. But this goes outside of our downtown El Camino specific plan. And so it's just right outside of that. So it's kind of like, I can understand the issues in the parking and the congestion and some of the studies, light study, shade, wind, et cetera. I could see it being more applicable to such a large facility like this. So I think I have a difficulty with this project.
Just a point of clarification, this site was identified in our housing element as a prime site for multi-residential, correct?
Yes, it's site number 2 in our sites inventory.
And in terms of the fancy term that RENA, that everybody doesn't know what such like nobody's, but the regional housing allocation, this was in our proposed places where we would get some of
That's
that.
correct. In our housing element, it's included with lower affordable units. Also, the proposed project is a little bit higher than that. The housing element identified it as site number 2 with 49, up to 49 affordable units. And this one proposing up the full 97 or 95 in the 2 manager units.
So this does match with what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Yes. And it's actually better than we had anticipated.
That's another good point, that the previously mentioned SB 35 project was approved before the housing element update was adopted and certified.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Kathy?
I'm glad that we were able to work with the developer and make a little bit nicer building. So that is really a good thing. I'm glad that it's going to house some families, 400 square feet, kind of little. So it will have some housing for mom and dad and, or, a couple of kids so that they can go to school. I'm also glad to see it's the same developer or partners with the other building that we have on El Camino Real, because quite honestly, I've been around a long time, lived here a lot of years, and there was some apprehension when that building converted to all affordable. And it's been maintained well. There's been no issues, and I look forward to the same type of, the ownership is there, but the management to make sure that it fits in with the neighborhoods. Parking is going to be an issue, absolutely. But we can't do anything about it. We hope more people are going to walk to El Camino. I don't know. Wait and see on that one. But I agree with all the people that are complaining about the parking. I'm there with you, but I don't think we have any choice in the matter. And it is better to have people in an apartment than no place, so I think it looks nice.
Thank you.
Just a couple architectural comments that maybe staff might consider addressing with the developer. There is that entrance on Broadway where there's only 2.5 foot to the sidewalk. So just making sure that that has clear sight path in, I guess, the northbound, southbound direction for oncoming cars. Don't want to have trees, and make sure that car doesn't pull out or hit pedestrians on the sidewalk because there's only 2.5 feet there. So maybe move trees, and then trees might be more beneficial, or a buffer might be more beneficial on the Ludeman side next to the adjoining property, because there's the garbage receptacles there. So there's going to be garbage bins for the entire facility right next to the single family home. So just to be neighborly, it might be good to have more buffers, or make sure that's an enclosed facility or something to reduce the smell or vegetations. Is it indoors? Okay. So it might be good to verify that, because on the drawings, it looks like outdoors. Okay. And then maybe the parapet on the corner of Ludeman and Broadway might not be so obtrusive, because it's facing the senior facility and then Park Broadway and Millbrae Pancake House. So it's not going to be somebody's looking up from their yard at that. But those are just some suggestions. And then also the benefit of this is that there is still potential for step downs, because the adjoining properties on the rear of the facility, they're actually zoned for higher density developments also. So those properties could be, in the future, apartment buildings or income properties, and they can build higher elevations. Just they're not zoned for single family residence. They are zoned for higher density residential, so we can still meet that kind of step down pattern into the neighborhoods.
Thank you.
If it's okay, can I just add on to a couple of things Ellen said about the driveway setback? I am concerned, and maybe this could be addressed through design, that when the resident driver pulls in, that the car is not going to clear the sidewalk, right? Because if they're needing to scan the car key to wait for the gate or the arm to open to get in, that's time when a vehicle is in the sidewalk. I'm not sure if the same is true on the Ludeman side, but for sure Broadway, that would be a concern. So if there's anything to help mitigate that safety issue, I would appreciate that. And you mentioned the possibility of adding, you didn't say stacker, you said a board to increase the parking count just by a little bit. Anything, I think, would be appreciated. Oh, and on the tower, I think, yes, there's no function to it and it's faux, but I think by having it, it actually helps the perceived height of the entire mast to be lower than what it actually is. So I think it actually helps with the perceived height architecturally. So I would vote to not take it off if there is a vote.
Thank you. All right, I'll just throw my comments in here. First, I really appreciate the improvement in this project. It is much nicer looking. We have way more parking now. And it's just that fact that it's all affordable. The first project was only partially affordable. This is a fantastic project and just what we need. I also feel like this is an example for future developers, that while SB 35 exists, and yeah, you come in and build something utilitarian and very large, maybe you can always slow down a little, see if there's other options in your funding sources and all of that, and be a partner with the cities and do what these guys have done. I'm looking, my notes are all scattered. I don't have a clear way to write my notes. But this does match with our general plan. It matches with our housing element. It takes us a big step forward in terms of our needed new units and affordable units. It's beautiful. I'm grateful for them to come back with a revised project. That's it. And as a reminder, when we vote, as our team over here described, you'd have to have a finding to vote no. You'd have to find something in our list of findings that it doesn't match with. Does that make sense? Okay, just so we all know. We have to follow state law, but there's, if we wanted to reject it, there would have to be reasons for it. You can't just say we don't like it. That's not enough. Okay, all right. So does anybody have any other comments? Anybody have, what about the memo?
Just remember that the memo notes that staff recommends the commission's motion include the changes.
Okay,
Just a reminder.
reminder, thank you very much. Does anybody have a motion?
What you just say.
Try. Come on, you can do it.
I'll make a motion to approve the project before us at 1301 Broadway. And the public hearing, wait, I need the other thing. The resolution. And the resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Millbrae approving a design review permit and a conditional use permit, approving a density bonus and waivers of development standards under state density bonus law, and adopting a Class 32 categorical exemption in accordance with CEQA guidelines, Section 15332. Infill development projects, and directing city staff to file a notice of exemption for the categorical exemption to allow for 93 feet tall residential building with 97 units, approximately 800 square feet of ground floor amenity space, and a podium level parking on the approximately 0.67 acre site located at 1301 Broadway. And subject to,
Addition and that.
just, in addition to everything else that's in the existing resolution, the memo from Community Development Department dated August 19th with additional comments on items 36, 54, 72, 74, and 84.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Votes?
Commissioner Quigg,
Yes.
Commissioner Choi,
Aye.
Commissioner Wong,
No.
Vice Chair Davis.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you. The action of the Planning Commission is considered final pending a 10-day appeal period and the payment of a required appeal fee. For anyone that wishes to appeal the decision of the Planning Commission, please contact the city clerk at 650-259-2414 or etran@ci.millbrae.ca.us with appeal process questions, or visit the City of Millbrae website. Congratulations. Next up on the agenda is new business. We have none. And staff update.
Well, again, I want to welcome Lori Liu, our new Assistant City Attorney. She just coincidentally happened to start in the one of the largest projects we'll see this year. Thank you for all your help getting this sorted before the meeting tonight. Really, we don't have any major announcements. We are recruiting for an associate planner this month. It closes, I believe, September 3rd. Hopefully we'll get some good candidates for that vacancy. With that, no more items in our staff report this evening.
We always ask, when are they going to tear down Office Depot? We know it's close,
I
but
do actually have an update on that. Did we issue the demo permit? I thought we're close. We're about to issue the demo permit. We do expect them to get that issued and work started in September on the building, on the demolition of 959 El Camino. That's the old Office Depot building. So they are moving forward. Everything is agreeing, and we're just about to complete that demo permit this week. That's good news. Thank you for
And
pointing that out.
quite honestly, I can hardly wait for this to get done because that building at 1301 Broadway has been an absolute eyesore for that it's zoned as, because I remember it was medical offices and it was commercial, and somebody wanted to change it, and they would have had to have a zoning change, and so it worked out, I guess. Okay.
Thank you. Is that it? Anybody have any announcements, comments
I
they'd
have a
like?
question.
Yeah.
I read in the newsletter that there's a date planned for the, not hearing, but the community meeting for the residential design review. By asking, could we include that in the minutes for today?
What?
Yeah, certainly.
The
So,
design-
yeah, that'll be, it's the workshop, it'll be a hybrid workshop, so both in-person option and a Zoom option.
Great.
For the objective design standards, and that'll be the night of September 5th. That's a
Great.
Thursday night. It'll be right here at the council chambers.
Thank you.
Good night.
Any other announcements? Is there anything else coming up? We just did the car show, Art and Wine Festivals, Labor Day weekend. What else do we got?
Art and Wine is coming up.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God.
Weekend after next, we'll have what? Beast and Brews. In September should be the 19th. Sounds right. Third Thursday.
And there's some kind of night market or something, isn't there?
Oh, maybe, because it's getting darker, so they might be changing the format. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
All right.
We had a grand opening for the new coffee shop in Millbrae.
That's true. Today there was a ribbon cutting at Brothers Cafe, the former Little Whale site.
Yeah.
Everybody go check that out. Yeah. Nothing else?
And welcome.
Yes. All righty. We're adjourned.